Hello, hello, hello,
Hello.
hello. So we
Welcome
are
back.
doing evening broadcast thanks to
Yes.
Provider Text today. I finally bought a ring light and I'm getting very Gen Z,
Yes.
not my thing. But I was watching My So-Called Life and I was feeling very 90s, the other night. And Ronald and I were getting into our sort of icons that we appreciate, and I worship at the altar of Gwyneth Paltrow, like through all the ages, from 1990 to Goop. I'm talking for like Peter Pan to Shakespeare in Love, Brad Pitt, Chris Martin, the whole nine. I live for Gwyneth's whole trajectory, but Miss Ronald is not feeling Miss Gwyneth in any way, shape, or form.
And here's why, because she started throwing around words that are very dear to me. She started throwing around words such as fashion icon and words such as that. And I was like, hold on, Missy. We're not going to use such words all willy-nilly.
I literally
Be
thought you were
careful.
talking. I thought you were talking about things that Gwyneth Paltrow said. I was like, oh, did she have some racial POC stuff in the past?
Oh, oh no, well, what the gag is, apparently she's like best friends with Beyonce, which is really, I don't see
They
them.
live in the same building in Tribeca.
Is that why?
Yeah,
Because
they
I'm
both
just
have
like,
a floor.
you two,
Like
you,
they're very close. They're very, very close.
which I'm trying to wrap my head around because she almost looks like she would call the police on Beyonce.
Gwyneth is not like that. She's from New York. She's very progressive.
You
Okay.
can tell by looking at her. But yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into all things GP. GP is what the people at Goop call Miss Gwyneth. So Gwyneth is the daughter. Oh, sorry. Oh, let's do the slideshow. So Gwyneth is the daughter of Bruce Paltrow, who's a television producer, and the actress Blythe Danner. And some of the more millennial children remember Blythe Danner played Will's mother on Will and Grace. And so Blythe Danner is a very renowned theater actress, and her father.
Oh, I didn't know that was the mom.
Yeah, that's her mom.
Oh,
Yeah, that's her mom. So
sadly,
and
your
so
mom's better than
Gwyneth
you.
really
But
grew up in this sort of Hollywood way. She lived in Los Angeles till I think about the 8th grade. As she has said to herself, she went to Montessori school, so she was very like free to be you and me type education until they moved to New York, because Blythe really wanted them to be educated in a New York setting, and so she went to Spence, and it was all very sort of upper crust and Upper East Side and upper echelon till Gwyneth graduated high school. So Gwyneth did Peter Pan. Steven Spielberg is her godfather, and she played Wendy, the daughter, in that. So that was kind of her first to do in Hollywood.
that first big role.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say it was a big role. I mean, I wouldn't say she even had more than 20 lines, but that was the
Oh.
first time she saw on film. I mean, it wasn't like today where, you're an Instagram star, you have all these followers, and then you're all of a sudden a star. Like, you had to kind of do little things to get ahead. So that was her first thing. And then she started doing a series of smaller roles. And then she got engaged to Brad Pitt. Now, Brad Pitt was the biggest star of this era, from Thelma and Louise to A River Runs Through It to Interview with a Vampire. So, and as you could see, Gwyneth, was very self-styled. She's got the W magazine in her back, her little pouch here. And so, but
I mean, she looks like, what is that, the 90s or 80s?
this is probably 95, 94.
Yeah, so she looks like the 90s, so we're not going to give her any 10s. She wasn't doing anything groundbreaking.
Well, she was the 90s it girl, which we'll get into, because you have to remember, we're 10 years apart in age. There were really no stylists back then. I mean, these people were self-styled. There were celebrity services. Armani had a person. Maybe Prada had a person. This is when Uma Thurman wore that beautiful Prada lilac gown to the Oscars '95, and it was such a moment. So Gwyneth was really like store-bought, like she thought fashion, and then people really started to take notice of her style. And also Gwyneth is 5'9" and probably 120 pounds soaking wet, so she also wore clothes very well. I mean, you can see how tall she is here in flats.
I will give her that. She reads lean and tall. I'll give her that.
So here she is in 1995 for Tom Ford for Gucci, and as we know, Gucci mid-90s Tom Ford, I mean, there was no other it brand that was more it than this. So, this is where she really started to emerge as more, not so much store-bought, but a creation of public relations for these brands. But she had an appreciation of it growing up in New York, being around fashion, being around the, Upper East Side. And so here she is in Christian Dior Galliano at the time. And, we may be like, oh, this is really messy with the jeans today, but this is how girls dressed. It was really about the top. And
well, again, this is why I'm saying she's not doing anything that no one else is doing, which is why I'm trying to figure out why you want to call her a fashion icon.
But she was the first one to do this. I am telling you. I mean,
What do you mean? Britney and everyone else was doing it?
Britney was way after her. Britney was a good 5 years later from all of this.
Okay, well, who else?
Britney was taking cues from Miss Gwyneth. Only maybe Winona Ryder, who was also self-styled and cared about fashion. But you have to remember, this is the time of
well, you had all those
Roberts and
you had like the Janet Dickinson
they didn't do this. I mean, barely, Claire Danes was on the cover, barely Cameron Diaz on the cover.
But didn't like a Janice Dickinson or like a Tyra and like all of those people do it too?
They were, I mean, honey, they were giving you Joyce Leslie 8th Street. They were not giving you high designer fashions from Paris. There were no, I love Tyra, I know her personally, but no celebrity services was loaning to her. Because Naomi could have put a kibosh on that. So,
well, what about Naomi? She was always
they were models. That was the difference. They were muses. In the early 90s, it wasn't the most fashionable time. The popular actresses at the time were like Jessica Lange, Julia Roberts, Glenn Close. Those were really the predominant actresses of the early 90s. They did not care about fashion. They did not wear it. So the supermodels, that's why they had such a trajectory and why they had such an art, because they took over that sort of glamorous Hedy Lamarr,
But to me, a fashion icon should be someone who, when you say their name, you immediately you're able to either reference them in some way, like, oh, that's a very Gwyneth Paltrow circa da 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 illusion.
I did not do any research for this video. I literally know this stuff off the top of my head. From
you know it because you like her because you're a Karen. No, but no. No, but it's just like, like when you should be able to meet like my point is you should immediately be able to identify that person's aesthetic. You know how like when you say a Rihanna, you have that automatic aesthetic.
Speaking of Rihanna, she did this look after Gwyneth, and Hathaway wore jeans with the top. Lindsay Lohan, it was all about the top and the jeans because of Miss Gwyneth and this look. I'm telling you, this was so influential. This is probably like 98. And this trickled down for.
I was doing old at the time, so I can't.
People in editorial like 03, 04.
I mean, I was 8 years old at the time, but I would need to do some fact checking to see if she was the one who came up with it, or did the runway present it that way?
The runway didn't present it with the jeans. So that sort of casual mix was because
but
this is
someone like, was it on runways presented?
No, it wasn't. Well, at the time, this is what they called high-low, and Kate Moss is really most famous for this, for mixing like a runway piece with like.
Well, see, that's a fashion icon because she's a fashion model icon. So when you think of Kate Moss, you automatically think of this pose, but we don't have any kind of correlation of such things when it comes to Miss Gwyneth.
Because you don't know your fashion history. We're going to get into it. I did this presentation for you. But, okay, well, let's go on. Let's go on. So here she is in Calvin Klein. So minimalism, you are the king of minimalism. This was the.
It looks like she's wearing a bed sheet.
Oh, this was it. The slip dress. It was.
She doesn't have a presence chain. Okay, fine. You're gonna wear that, and I know you think it looks cute, but honey, if you're gonna wear something like that, you better be posed and slaying. She's standing there like she just woke up out of bed.
It was just a very different time. There was only maybe 3 photographers at this event. They probably were like Gwyneth, and she was probably just like, they weren't, walking the carpets, and it was very different.
Darling, when I'm in an illusion, you can catch me from any angle that I'm serving.
I mean, Ronald, these images are so old that they shot them on film. The film then had to be transferred into a newspaper and a magazine. That's how old. There was no download. There was no wire image. There was no Getty Images. This was like Ron Galella.
So we're blaming.
I'm just saying they weren't.
We're blaming film for her lack of posture. Okay.
Oh, she angry, and she does not have bad posture in this, honey. You take it. I mean, there are people you mention these days that have worse posture than this. So then, of course, she became the darling of the magazines. Here she is in a early
She's
debut.
got the Rachel.
Oh yeah, she's got the Rachel. Yeah, and so at this time, the magazines were all about like if this was the top edit lines of the magazine and this was the bottom, it was all about what was on the top because that's what would peek out at the bookstore or the airport. So Gwyneth Paltrow, fashion superstar, class act. So
I'm
you
not
know,
denying that she was big in the 90s, but I don't know if there's any way you could possibly change my mind about her being a fashion icon. She is just not going to like fashion people do not.
listen to the names I'm going to drop you. No
Okay.
one, not Cameron Diaz, not Winona Ryder,
Cameron
not
Diaz
Serena.
is actually, I would call her more of one if I had to pick one. I would call her more of one because at least we're able to put it. At least we're able to put together her aesthetic just
Gwen
from the
has an aesthetic. Rich
off
bitch.
the rack,
That's her aesthetic. Rich bitch.
off the rack boring.
So here she is on the cover of Bazaar, Gwyneth Bears All. And then you had the tenacity the other day. You had the audacity the other day. You were like, well, she didn't win no awards. And I was like, she won the Oscar, girl. The Oscar.
In 1998.
99, Shakespeare.
99.
This is a custom-made Ralph Lauren gown that Ralph made for Gwyneth himself. No one.
My thing with her is she hasn't maintained relevancy. The only reason she's relevant now is because of Goop, but she hasn't maintained relevancy because of her acting. Like, what do
Well,
we know?
but I mean, has Jessica Alba maintained relevance because of her
Well, she
acting?
still, at
Any of
least she
these.
still has her.
Has
She still has a
Britney
show. Well,
maintained relevance because of her music?
yes,
No, none of these
yes, she
entertainment
does.
projects
Britney
matter
is
anymore.
still very much relevant. She has a residency, and she'll put out new music, and people will still listen to it.
We're gonna get into it later. Gwyneth is worth $250 million. So, so this was
Well, how much is
beyond
Cameron
Uma
Diaz worth?
Thurman. No one was giving you fashion like this. Hilary Swank came a little bit later than this, but no one was giving you great American celebrity red carpet fashion. Gwyneth really was an innovator in this space.
Excuse me as I look up how much Cameron Diaz is worth, but
Oh,
continue.
Cameron's worth a lot. No, Cameron's made good money.
Oh, okay.
So then Gwyneth did a 700-page plus Vogue September issue, which she did a decade shoot with Tawny Goodman, which was legendary. This, at the time, the Vogues weren't necessarily phone book thick, but this was the first issue that was phone book thick because she had the power to do this. Now, Anna Wintour herself even said that they cover shot this 3 times to get it right. 3 times. So because back then Condé Nast had so much money, you know, it didn't matter that they did a cover shoot 3 times because they had to get it right and they had to sell the magazine. So which I think is really incredible. So, but
I mean, it was the 90s. It was a different time.
But I should have pulled some interiors from the shoot. It was incredible. At this point, Cameron had been on the cover of Vogue. Winona had been on the cover of Vogue. Claire had been on the cover of Vogue. I
But my
think
problem with her,
Penelope was around this
is like,
time,
uh-huh.
but no one gave you like
I know. I get
actress.
what you mean, and I can understand why you would like her and you see her as a fashion icon. And yes, she does have all those moments, but to me, she's missing that certain level of presence. Even the pictures that you have shown me, okay, fine, they're put together well. And if you said she managed to style herself for that time, yeah, she met that time, and it looks
Yeah,
fine.
she didn't have a
She did it herself.
stylist till
Yeah.
'07. She used
So I'll give her
Elizabeth
that. Like
Saltman,
she
who used to
managed,
work at Vanity Fair.
yeah, she put herself together well. But there's a difference between putting yourself together well and selling a garment based on like your overall just presence. And someone who I think does that well is Rihanna. She just always has a presence. To me, when all these pictures that you're showing me, I see someone they're wearing clothes. They're just wearing clothes rather than selling clothes, if that makes any sense. And that's more of what I meant. Like I don't feel like she embodies the most confidence and the most kind of like, for lack of a better word, she doesn't kind of have like, I'm that bitch sass that I need when I see a full illusion.
I think ultimately, I'm trying to explain this like democratically, I guess the best way to put it.
No, bitch, keep it 100.
I think it's just like a cultural thing. You know, she was reared on the Upper East Side. She went to Spence. It's not so much an in-your-face
Bitch,
sexuality.
no, bitch. Don't try it. Don't you dare start bringing in race cards and shit
I'm
like that. Bitch,
not
I
even
knew I should
bringing
have
in the
told.
race card.
I knew
I'm
I should
just
have told you. I
saying.
shouldn't have let you say. No, bitch. I used Rihanna just because that was just my first go-to instinct because I very much
But
see
it
her as
took
a fashion
Rihanna a
icon.
second to even come into that ownership of her sexuality and her look. I mean, Pon de Replay,
No,
she
I
ain't
know.
a fashion icon then.
Well, I know, but well, everyone's gonna have to take time to get to it too. But I'm saying once you do get into it, you have kind of like an ability to own it. And I used Rihanna just because I see her as the definition of a fashion icon, just based off of the way she is able to send trends and set trends, and people will
But
follow
I
it.
think
But
ultimately,
also,
at the end of the day, it's a difference between generations, for you and me. Of course,
no, I mean,
Rihanna
no,
is
I'm
your
just saying,
I
I'm
mean,
explaining Rihanna
you were
from that.
17, when Rihanna was at her height. I was 19 when
No,
Rihanna was
I
at
know
her
what you
height.
mean. No, I know what you mean. But I'm just saying, like, I'll give you an example because I'm not. I don't. I used Rihanna just because it was the first go-to. So now I need to now debunk your statement about it being like a jurisdiction and a race thing or whatever the fuck you were saying. I used Rihanna just because she was the first person that came to mind because I see her as very much like she's an icon in the sense that people will buy what she does and she carries herself she has a presence with fashion.
Oh,
She
and
has a connection to
I'm
fashion.
not
That's
doubting
what I
that
mean. I
at
think that's what
all.
it is. I think the word I'm trying to use is connection to fashion. You could tell she has a connection to fashion and she really likes it being on her body. My thing with Gwyneth that with all these pictures that you showed me, I don't think she has that connection to fashion. I think she likes to look good and put herself together well, but she doesn't have that connection to fashion where that when she's wearing it, she really feels it. Do you get what I mean?
No,
And
and I'm not disagreeing with you with Rihanna at all. I mean, I love Rihanna and, she's so confident and so beautiful and so talented. And, I have
right.
nothing negative to say about Rihanna. But I guess Gwyneth, to me at least, she represents this fantasy life of being upper crust and being, Upper East Side and having all the designers at your feet and just, the
I
best
get
fabric,
that.
the
I
best
get
house,
that, but
the best,
I get that too. But there's also something to be said about you having the garments and wearing it well, if you will, and or not wearing it well, but owning it. I feel like she looked. There's a difference between wearing clothes that is, yes, as you said, it is put together, but then there's a difference between wearing clothes and owning the clothes you wear. Like it's like she just kind of just like I get you said so they probably snapped her in these shots really quickly or whatever, but there's just a presence and just like you can tell when someone feels good and you can tell when someone's like feeling themselves, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
And that then trickles down to now people are like, oh, that's a cute outfit, or now that's like it's selling clothes, if you get what I'm saying, rather than just wearing it.
Well,
And
let's
now
go on to a few of the other looks because you
but wait,
probably
I still gotta debunk the age thing because you said as far as like selling clothes, someone who I would say, and though they're not necessarily a fashion icon, but I feel like they sell clothes, as to speak to my point, Jane Fonda. That's an old
Oh,
bitch.
yeah. Oh,
But
I
she
mean,
sells it because of her presence. So I think that's mainly what it comes down to, not even so much as breaking it down to like whether or not they're an icon. I just think at the end of the day, Gwen lacks a presence of owning the garments that she's wearing. I feel like it's essentially just
oh, I mean,
wearing, or she's
Jade,
just wearing clothes.
one of my
Huh?
favorite documentaries, of all time, which is recent, is Jane Fonda and Buybacks. You want to talk about somebody so fully realized and who has fought 80 years to realize herself in such a fully
Yeah.
realized 360 way. I mean, there's no other person I love probably more Jane Fonda than my own mother, so,
Yeah,
but,
like that's
speaking of the kind of t- things you touched on. Let's move on, and then you
okay.
can circle back to those.
Okay.
So she did the Vogue cover, as we said. So she broke up with Brad Pitt. It was a big to-do in all the magazines, just at the time when, Us Weekly was emerging, people taking a more tawdry approach to their coverage. Here she is with Scott Speedman, who was a huge star at the time on a show called Felicity. And here she is with Stella McCartney for Chloe. So you could actually see
Her
the
makeup looks
cover.
like she's in a uh, like a queen reenactment or something.
I mean, this is probably 2000. This picture was taken. There was no bigger line than Stella
It's
McCartney. Chloe.
lipstick
I
and
mean,
blush.
it was the Celine of its time. So, but notice the nipple covers here, and we're going to kind of
Yeah.
circle back to that.
Okay.
So then, of course, the crop tops and that kind of look, keeps going.
See what I mean? She just doesn't own that outfit. It's wearing her. I'm really perplexed that you think that you see something like this and you see inspiration and you see
I live.
fashion. I see a bitch standing there in a two-piece set and
Well,
almost
girl,
looking
this was
happy to be
it.
there.
This was, when Britney came on the scene and the two-piece sets with Oscar de la
I'll
Renta,
go as far as to
Lauren,
say Britney owns clothes more than her.
Ooh, you fighting words now, honey. So, oh my goodness,
What happened?
Oh, I missed a really important slide when she wore the McQueen with her nips out to the Oscars.
Oh, it's
Okay, sorry. That was a really important point. I don't know how I missed that.
well, I mean, you could just speak to it.
Well, she wore a let me actually see if I can bring it up, just the solo photo. So she wore a Alexander McQueen outfit that was custom made for her to the Oscars at the year after she won for Shakespeare in Love. And so it was a huge controversy. Actually, I just found the photo.
Oh, okay. Let's see. But I don't know, like, I just can't. I would be lying if I could say with a straight face that she's a fashion
Can you
icon.
see the photo?
Oh, I see it now. Yeah.
So here she is at the Vanity Fair party, and
Again, it's wearing her. She just doesn't look like she doesn't look
that was a
happy to be
big
wearing
point.
it.
So she wore no brassiere, the nips were out on full display. It was just that simple tank top and that simple skirt.
She looks uncomfortable.
This was
Rihanna would have been selling that.
She had that Heidi braid, and people did not like this. The magazines did not like it. The fashion people did not like it.
Yeah, because she didn't sell it. So that's what I'm saying. That's the connection. A fashion icon should be able to sell anything they're wearing. Get it? So that is why I don't have a problem with you saying that she's done a lot. Like she's part of the zeitgeist in fashion to some extent, but I have a problem with you calling her a full-on fashion icon.
Can you see the slideshow?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to where we were. So then, Chris, as I mentioned, she broke up with Brad Pitt. She married Chris Martin in quick succession. Then she popped out these two little kids. So here she is on the street looking gorgeous, probably in this Cheryl Lowe jewelry, this Jane First top, this Balenciaga pant, and that Hermes, Mediador cuff. And then...
Shane, okay, see, here's the thing, Shane. This is where I think, I don't know, maybe this is an age thing, as you were saying before. You have a tendency to equate an outfit to style, if you will, or to fashion, if you will, just based on the designers, not on how it's put together. If you did not tell me that those brands, I literally would have thought that she got those pieces from Madewell or J. Crew. So you can do a lot.
Those two brands were not this advanced at this time. That was like 2004. This is like Madewell and J. Crew based those looks off of Miss GP.
Exactly. But my thing is, like, she looks basic is my point. So that is a basic. Shane, if you saw someone a woman walking down your neighborhood wearing that, you would be there. Go another basic.
You would in my neighborhood. You know nobody look like this. They're in Lululemon.
Shane, you would read someone like that. If you saw that on a magazine cover, you would read them the film. And quite frankly, a fashion icon, here's how we should break down what a fashion icon is. Pretty much everything that they step into, pretty much everything that they wear and they step onto the street in should be able to easily hit the pages of a magazine.
This was this look was in.
Shane, if you saw that in
all the weeklies,
if you saw that in a Vogue editorial, you would read them to filth.
I'd say reality to runway. Kate Moss looks great.
Huh?
I'd say reality to runway. Kate Moss looks great in this editorial.
She looks incredibly basic. She looks like a mom is what she looks like.
Well, she is a mother.
That doesn't mean you need to look like one.
You always expect people to be dressed going down the street like Sweetie. Like, They
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? That is not my aesthetic at all. How dare you? I'm offended. How could you even say that? First of all, I like Sweetie because I like her music, but that doesn't mean I like her taste in clothing. She's thotty. My biggest pet peeve in fashion is thotty. I really hate thotty clothing. So I can't believe you would say I expect you. What I expect you to look like is you're walking down the street like you just stepped off of a runway show from Paris. Because it's doable. She looks like she's going on a grocery run because she probably was.
She probably
That is,
is. And
but
looking
she, but
fabulous.
when Rihanna goes on a grocery run, she looks like she stepped off of a Paris runway show.
We
That's my
don't
point.
do nothing for herself. She
What
said her assistant.
Okay, well then get yourself an assistant to put you together too, because she looks basic. I'm just Shane. Oh my gosh, I really wish we need a guest. This is when we need it, because I can't be the only. Comment below, you guys, if you guys think this outfit is Trey chic or Trey basic, because I'm just.
We need to turn that into a show.
I know that we should. That's actually a good idea.
Okay, well, let's move on.
I'm mortified. I almost want to start crying because I feel like you're offending the thousand gods by liking that outfit.
So this picture is later, but of course, Gwyneth starts Goop in 2008, which started as a newsletter and then quickly developed into a lifestyle brand, which is now worth $250 million.
I'm not denying her success on Goop. So this is, let me tell the people, this is how our argument fully started to begin with anyway, because we started talking about
we're going to get to that, but go ahead and fill them in succinctly.
Okay, well, we started talking about Goop, and then Miss Shane here mentioned that she just launched a clothing line and proceeds to
send it's not just launched. I mean, it's like at least 4 years old by this point.
Well, that tells you something. But it never made it on our radar. But yeah, so she has a clothing line then, apparently, and proceeded to send me pictures of the new collection and started telling me about how chic it was. And then I had some opinions, so we'll get into that later. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of backstory on why we're
literally the most succinct story you've ever told in your entire filming of the show. I'm so proud of you. We've been working on this, ladies and gentlemen.
We have.
So, of course, Gwyneth continues to be a fashion icon during Goop, even though her acting career is on the low. And here she is in this amazing Tom Ford look. So starting off this cape trend that everybody and their mother did after her.
Shane, stop giving her so much credit. The designer made it and she wore it. You act like she was the one who designed it.
She didn't wear some simple one-shoulder gown. She chose to elevate it with a cape.
She looks uncomfortable. She looks like her feet hurt.
She looks incredible. She works out for 4 hours a day. I wish I had the time.
But her feet, it looks like she hurt. She looks like she doesn't want to be there. She looks like she wants to be eating nachos somewhere. She'd rather eat nachos somewhere, huh?
When it does not do a nacho, she will do some vitamin water, honey. She's all about that starvation.
Is she?
So look at here, girl, in this snowy, I don't know if she's in Bale or Gstaad or wherever, but looking incredible in the snow.
She looks like a linebacker with those shoulders. And then, hey, go back, Shane. Go back. Okay, did she style herself for this?
No, by this point, she's working with Elizabeth Saltzman.
Okay, well, a true fashion icon would have known to put her hair up into some type of updo. To give herself elongation. She looks like what is it, whack-a-mole? She doesn't have a neck. Her neck is missing in action. And you want to call that a fashion icon?
So rude and nasty. Okay, well, let's actually move on to this. Like, this is a very standard starlet look. I think she's at some sort of German Oscars here. And I cannot remember who this is, to be honest. It was Saint Laurent or Tom Ford. But now this is a very standard starlet look. How do you feel about her here?
Not breaking any molds.
But you cannot deny that body. She's already 40 years old and 2 kids by this point.
Shane, we don't give fashion icons their title based on the fact that they're fit. We give them the title of icon based on their ability to influence and to sell garments.
There's nobody more influential than Gwyneth. She ain't Snooki.
No one said that, but she's also not. You're making it sound like she's Anna Wintour or something. And I'm like,
practically,
no.
she could have been.
Girl, please.
All right, now let's get into what really brought this deep discussion between
Yes.
friends on.
Now we're
So
here.
Gwyneth is an extremely successful businesswoman, probably arguably more successful with Goop than she was as an actress.
Oh my,
And this
no, not
headline in the New York
arguably. Facts.
Times magazine
Facts.
said it best.
Because she wasn't very successful as an actress, so
How
facts.
Goop's haters made Gwyneth Paltrow's company worth $250 million inside the growth of the most controversial brand in the wellness industry.
No, Goop is what, to me, to be, if I'm being quite honest, I almost want to say Goop is kind of what she's more known for than acting. And yeah, you said she got an
Oh,
award.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Definitely to today's children. I mean, let's face it. I mean, just using another example, Jessica Alba, The Honest Company. Jessica's not really known for her acting anymore in the same way that Gwyneth's not known for her acting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I would say that.
one would
I mean,
even
but
argue.
the thing is, Jessica Alba still acts though. She has a show. I think it's on Netflix or something.
She had her own show on Goop on Netflix.
Who had her own show on Goop with Netflix?
Gwyneth.
You mean like a documentary?
We're gonna get to that.
You mean a documentary?
It wasn't a documentary. It was a 6-part series.
Oh, of acting.
No, she was in The Politician on Netflix, but she had her own show about Goop.
Oh no, that I
Docuseries.
don't want to say that doesn't count, but I'm talking about still acting. Like my point was, Alba still acts though. Like she has a show with Gabrielle Union where she plays a cop.
Oh, I mean, all that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying my point was Alba still acts, but but neither one of them are still. As you said, you're right though. Neither one of them are still huge for their acting. But I would say Jessica Alba is still more known for her acting, even though she has Honest, simply because Honey was so big of a movie. But I can't. I can't think of any movies that. What did she even win that award for? What movie did Gwyneth? Okay, see, it's a little bit beyond. I was too young to be watching that, I guess. But in '98,
The Talented Mr. Ripley, Sylvia. Remember when I was referencing Sylvia the other day? Sylvia Plath.
Yeah, I know, but I just feel like her acting. Like, don't get me wrong, she's a brilliant actor, a brilliant actress. Because I have seen her on The Politician, because I watched that, and I did like her how she played the mom.
Incredible.
But I just don't think her,
Incredible. She was on Glee as a guest
star.
Yeah, no, that's where she met her second husband.
I mean, yeah, you definitely don't have to tell me. I'm a musical fish, so I watched every episode of Glee, so I liked her on Glee. But I just definitely don't think she's the. I just don't.
You say something positive.
But I definitely would. But what I will say is, I would never call her a Meryl Streep of acting. I would never say that though. I'll leave it at that.
Even I can agree with that.
Oh, okay. But once she created Goop, I felt like that was her lane. And that was best for her. So I'm definitely not knocking Goop.
So this is what really inspired the discourse between Ronald and I. The dress code at Goop may not surprise you. So this was a photographic spread of the Goop offices in Santa Monica. And of course, Gwyneth Paltrow was fully realized in her Goop separates. Now, this is a line that is specifically designed for the Goop e-commerce vertical. So beautifully modeled here by GP. And Ronald has said it is J. Crew, it's basic, it's this, it's that. So why don't you speak on that?
So, no, you need to tell the people this full story. You told them that it's super editorial and super high fashion and super now and just everything.
I wouldn't say it's high fashion.
Okay, but you said it was super
luxury
now.
Basics.
And you kept on saying it was luxury too. And my problem with that is luxury is fine, but I need luxury along with design. I oftentimes, and I feel like this is kind of like a basic, I don't know if it's the basic in you from being born in Modesto, but you can't call something,
She fine today?
You can't call something luxury just because it happens to be made in cashmere. It's luxury in the fabric, yes, but what about the design part of it?
The weight of the cashmere, the feel of the cashmere.
There's a difference between a luxury fabric.
Sheeps were shaved in Scotland.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it a luxury design. There's a difference between luxury fabric and then a luxury design. She happens to use luxury fabrics, but the problem with that is we can't tell because the design looks so basic. It could be anything. That is what my point is.
Because it's every day. See, this is why I brought up Sweetie earlier, because you always want everything to be some Parisian
But why does it
runway
need to be? Why are you using
extravaganza.
Sweetie though?
This
Sweetie is
is
fine.
this
That's a bad
line is for
example.
real women of value, taste, and worth.
You,
Educated
why
women.
are you using Sweetie? Because Sweetie would wear a nighttime dress during the day, a freakum dress during the day.
I love Sweetie. I love that little thing she did for interview the other day with the bag. She's cute.
No, don't use Sweetie because that's definitely not what I mean. But I'm talking about like a.
Well, this line ain't for Cardi B.
Well, no, I don't. Well, stop using any of those rappers. Quit while you're ahead, because someone's gonna call you racist soon. I'm just kidding. But
Well, name a whitefish. Name a whitefish who would not wear this line. Who's like,
that would not. No, that's not the point. My point is, as a fashion icon, and you're supposed to be like this fashion person. I'm saying those outfits that in her line are far too basic for her to be a fashion icon. To create a line that basic is not what you would expect from a fashion icon. You see Rihanna's a fashion icon and you see what her line has. You get what I'm saying? I feel like that's a disconnect. And that's why I want to not call her a fashion icon, because when she decided to create a line, she most identified with basic items. That's not a fashion icon line. That's a everyday person line. You get what I'm saying?
right.
So
But
that's more the
Jessica
point.
Alba created a line for, like, say, Target. I mean, it would be the same thing, just in cheap fabrics made in China. It wouldn't be any different.
I'm not reading Jessica Alba. I never called her a fashion icon, nor did you. We're talking about her,
Oh,
who
I
you
love
called
Miss
her.
Alba. I love what she wears.
I like, well, quite frankly, I like Jessica Alba is more of an icon than her to me.
All right. Well, to wrap it up, so of course,
Wait,
when it,
oh hell no, you tried it, bitch. That's
what?
all of the outfits that you found. So you tried it. You wanted to make your argument stronger. You didn't show those atrocious workers in those hideous getups. You tried it, bitch. I knew I should have checked the PowerPoint before I let your ass show it without me surprise me with it. I cannot believe this petty bitch tried it. You knew that the people were going to side with me if you showed her staff in those hideous outfits. So you didn't include them. Okay, I see your game.
So if you want to see what Ronald is talking about, the extremely chic, elevated staff that GP employed.
I'm gooped by that you just did that. I am gooped that you just did this.
Google this article. You could see the incredibly chic women of value, taste, and decorum that work at GP's
I will
group
now give the
offices.
people a backstory on the workers. So Shane sent me the workers and had the nerve to tell me that the workers all are serving. First of all, he actually used the word chic. And since he didn't include it in this, please go look at the article, you guys, and you could see these unfortunate workers. And while the workers, I'm sure they're really great at their job and all of that, but Shane took it as far as to say that they're extremely chic and they look expensive. Bear in mind, some of the girls were wearing nothing more than a cardigan and jeans, part of her line, I guess. One girl had on a black, I want to call it a maxi dress with a rope for a belt. Very Anthropology. One of the workers, the men, she doesn't seem to have men's clothing, right?
No, there's men's clothing.
Oh, there is. Okay, well, he wore I can't remember exactly.
Okay, I just Googled the article for full
Oh, okay.
transparency. Let's
Thank
just show the
you.
people. So
Thank you.
let's
But
move from one thing to another.
yeah, one of them had a pair of jeans and a polo. And all of these people he thought were the chicest of work outfits. And that is where our argument started. That's really where our argument started.
Okay, so here's Gwyneth looking incredible. You can see this, right, Ronald?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's GP looking beautiful and gorgeous.
Yeah.
Here are the beautiful goop offices. If Gwyneth called, or Elise Lohman called me tomorrow and be like, do you want to come down here and be the lead stylist for our e-commerce studio? I'll be like, I can be there on October 1st.
I think I almost...
Now, okay, now what is your issue with this young woman?
Shane, that is far too... It's not the lesser... That's actually the lesser of evils. but she looks like she's a part of Working Girl, the movie. It's very dated. And I'm all for minimalism, but it doesn't look current. That doesn't look like she could be an extra in Working Girl for you?
Updated
It doesn't look,
girl.
huh?
Updated Working Girl.
I mean, I'm fooled about the updated part. It looks like it has shoulder pads as well. But okay, so that one's one. And then now stop right there. Don't you dare try it. You knew. Look at a messy trying to move
well,
past.
She's the food editor. Of course, she's wearing clogs.
So Shane, if lightning were to strike you now, and you have to be completely honest, you seeing this outfit look chic to you, you would call this a chic outfit for work.
I mean, for a certain girl, for the girl who shops at like Bird in Brooklyn, I could see her, at Bon Appetit, working as an editor. If she wasn't at Goop, this is a very
Shane, that is a San Francisco woman who. She almost looks like a Karen, to be honest with you. Like, that's almost a Karen outfit. I'm really perplexed that you would have the nerve to call that chic. Like, Shane, that is the most basic of basic outfits. And I get your point of saying how you like some of the pieces to you is like, because I get you like a good separate and you like those pieces, but by no means are any of these workers, I need to give the people a little bit of context. You actually said that it's the chicest workers that you've seen in the workplace. And that is where our argument started, because to me, those are the most basic workers that I've ever seen. And for it being...
let's not forget about the girl that you used to work full time with and I used to freelance with, who was a buyer and wore Lululemon and leggings to the office every day.
Well, no, that's different though. But that's different too, because that was still at the end of the day a tech company too. This you're claiming this is a fashion company for 4 years as well now too in their own right. So that's a little bit different. And they actually it's different. So that was still at the end of the day a tech company. So don't compare it to that. But and on top of that, your point is that they're so chic in fashion. This is
how are you feeling about ordinary. Danielle?
Anthropology, basic again. Shane, I feel like you're lying to make your point stronger. You've never once given a woman tens that looks like that on the street. You see enough of that in San Francisco, and you always read them.
Let's read a little bit about Miss Danielle. So, by the way, used to be an editor at Allure. So it looks really good. My husband gave me a Rolex Submariner on my 40th birthday. It cannot stand alone, so I have a Viking bracelet. The beads are volcanic stone. Then the hair ties my daughter is always running out of them. I like your dress. It's a little bit prairie, on trend. I like it because it really thrived in the 90s. That's what it reminds me of. It's broad collection. And the Warrior Sandra, Paul Andrew. I'm trying to get into sneaker culture. It's not my jam.
Did they give us context on what her role was at Allure?
Well, she's the editor-in-chief of Goop, so that's number one. I think she used to be the executive editor of Allure with Linda Wells.
But what section?
Oh, executive editor. So she was like the
overall.
Yeah.
Now that's interesting. Well, that being said, I don't know. I don't know.
This is now. I will say this. This is a very Condé Nast look that she's giving you in that photo.
I don't think it's a difference
between the Devil Wears Prada fantasy Condé Nast look and the actual Condé Nast look. The actual Condé Nast look is this.
You know what? I'll say it's fine. This isn't my biggest argument, but I still would like to see a little bit more refinedness and a little bit more chicness for someone who's came from
Well,
Allure.
You like to change things, so what would you change?
Okay, fine. If we must change it, I would do hair up, because just because you're older doesn't mean you always have to have your hair down. I get it that you have wrinkles to cover, but sometimes a look calls for your hair to be up because it's just going to make you look a little bit more streamlined. Even if you slick it back into a sleek ponytail or something, that would help. I don't necessarily have a problem with the dress per se. I do think a belt in the middle would probably help her. Cinch her in a little bit, give her just a little bit more just chicness, and that flat-footed ballerina type shoe is doing nothing for her. She looks like she has blocks on her, like her feet looks like she's like a Flintstone. So it's just little things like that. but I do see the level that she tried, and for her being someone who I would assume, I can't fully see, she kind of looks maybe like her 40s. I do think it's age appropriate in that regard. So that
45.
part's fine. 45. So the age appropriate is fine. So I'm not like, I can give people, I'm all for each person expressing their own personal aesthetic and personal style. So maybe she's a girl that likes print. I'm not going to try to push my like for minimalism onto everyone. So she maybe it's a girl for who likes prints. So that part's fine. I don't have a problem with the dress. I just kind of have a problem with how she styled it, I guess. And she doesn't necessarily look chic, but it's fine. Stop right there.
Well, let's
No,
move
go
on
back
to
to that other
let's
one.
move on to the men.
Fine.
So here's Eric Martin. He's 33. He's the county manager. How are you feeling?
You were the one who said all of this. My thing is, we need to still give the people context. You kept on saying that the staff was extremely chic. Like, that's something that if you go to any tech company right now, any startup, any tech company right now, you are going to see every single male wearing something similar to that.
Sure.
And since this is supposed to be like, yeah, as you said, your words, not mine, that it's a fashion company, I expect a little bit more from the fashion company. So this is your words. Like I hold these people I hold these things that you say to a standard based off of you saying they're a fashion. Like, I wouldn't necessarily, well, quite frankly, I was going to use Amazon fashion as an example, but I think they're probably even really chic, because I saw the president and she's really chic. But
well, here is Elise Lohman, who is the chief content officer for Goop, and she's considered Gwyneth's right hand, and she is very predominantly featured on the Goop Lab show on Netflix, which I told you about. How are you feeling about her?
I want to like it, but simply it looks frumpy because of how it's put. I don't know if it's necessarily how she's carrying herself or how it's put together, but something about it's giving me frumpy. It's giving me House on the Prairie a little bit. I just, don't get me wrong, I like all aesthetics, and I even can appreciate a anthropology aesthetic, but I just still feel like there should be a level of crispness and together and new. And I just feel like that it just looks like clothes. Like, I don't think it looks like fashion, as you said, though. That's where our argument really started, is because you keep saying it looks like fashion. And I'm trying to tell you that these are just clothes. Like, there's just like how there's a difference between clothes and a garment. None of those pieces are garments, is what I was trying to tell you. But you were trying to tell me that they're garments, and that's where our disconnect is. Because
I'm just going to tell you this. If I, had a studio of 15 to 20 people working for me, this is what I would want my staff to look like.
I would send mine home, because I would probably send mine home, because I want you to represent chicness. And at any point should a client be able to come into the office and first person they see should be chic. If I were to come into that office and the first person I saw was that man in those jeans and polo, I would be like, is this a fashion company? Did I wander into like Microsoft? Am I lost? So that's my point. So I would send it home.
All right.
At the bare minimum, a button down and slacks.
Well, like I have said on many episodes, we are sisters. We are going to agree to disagree at the end of the day. I don't think we're ever going to see eye to eye on Miss GP.
Because I will never call her, and I will never call her a fashion icon, and nor will I ever call that clothing line.
You know what we need to do next time? We need to take somebody you find very chic and who I'm not feeling so much, and we need to reverse this and see how it goes.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's possible, because everyone who I find chic is not open for debate. It's facts. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so like we said, we weren't actually going to do this episode till next week, but we were just feeling the late night moans. And
we caught her because she was up all night drinking,
I had half a bottle of wine, I will admit. So, all right.
Yes,
we're going to see you girl soon. But Ronald, what should they do though?
But yes, in the meantime, you guys, everyone, subscribe below and like and subscribe.
and repost and comment. We really want to hear your comments because I like the comments. I like when people
Yes.
comment. Okay.
Yes, you guys.
All right.
All right.
We're going to see y'all later.
Guys later.
Bye.